everybody. We're back again. I have a few more questions for Rayce Robinson.
All right.
You don't mind answering
let's
a
do
few
it.
more?
Let's do
All
it.
right, great. One of the things as a listing agent, we like to have buyers that are pre-approved, not pre-qualified. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with. If you don't mind telling me or telling us, what's the difference between pre-approved and pre-qualified for a buyer?
Yeah, this is probably one of the most asked questions as well. As someone pre-qualified or pre-approved, the dreaded pre-qualified. So I'll give you my version of those two things. So pre-qualified is what a lot of big banks do, online banks, or people just, they get busy. They pull the credit, they ask some basic questions, and they do what I call a pre-qual. So it's very easy to do, doesn't take as much time, and then the buyer can be out looking. The challenge with that is you're setting the buyer up for failure and the real estate agent, right? Because so many things come up when we spend a little more time looking. And when someone goes to contract and goes into underwriting, which we may talk about, these things are going to come up. So we have to review tax returns and pay stubs and look at all the things that an underwriter would look at to make sure that when the buyer's out there, they know exactly what they qualify for. We don't want any surprises, right, at closing. And it takes a little more time, but it sets the buyer up not only to be able to buy a house, but to have an advantage against other buyers that are just pre-qualified.
Right, right. And honestly, as a listing agent, I'm looking at that. Is it pre-qualified? Is it pre-approved? I'm also calling the lender and I'm asking, what does the pre-approval mean? What did you do? What steps did you take? So speaking of steps, let's have a conversation about what does it look like? So we got it. We find a house for the buyer. We get under contract. We have a contract. We send it over to you, all excited. What does that look like for that buyer and also for the real estate agent?
Yeah, so that's the exciting part, right? The buyer finally gets an offer accepted, because sometimes it might be not their first house, right? So they get their contract accepted. Usually there's about 30 days or so to close, which if you take out the weekends, that's like 22, 23, 24 business days. A lot has to happen fast. And so once the buyer goes to contract, we are going to do a meeting with them and really lock everything down, right? Kind of walk them through the process. They're going to go to contract, right? We're going to review their documents, see anything they need to update. Then we're going to put the file into what we call processing. And what that means is we have a processor that works for us, that works for my team, that gets all the documents. She used to be an underwriter. And then she's going to make sure before we get in front of the underwriter, which is the person we're dealing with, the lender that's actually going to give our loan approval, that we have all our ducks in a row. As that's going on, we're going to order an appraisal. The favorite part, right, is to order the appraisal. So the appraisal is ordered to a third-party company. You don't get to pick the appraiser. I don't get to pick the appraiser. The buyer doesn't get to pick the appraiser. The lender doesn't pick the appraiser. They're ordered to a management company. They're randomly selected, and the appraisal gets ordered. We update the documents. We get our underwriting approval. On our team, we're doing almost everything. We're getting survey, title, helping the buyer get insurance, dealing with the appraiser. The buyer's just uploading their documents and helping us make sure we meet the timeline. Then once we get all their documents back in, we get the survey, title, appraisal, all that stuff, we close. Anytime during that process that's a challenge, we'll go over with the client like, hey, we need an updated pay stub, right? The appraiser is asking for more comps, which you may provide. So we kind of handle almost everything through the process.
Gotcha. Now,
wait, I forgot the best part.
what's
Closing.
that? Oh,
After
that's
that,
when you get to celebrate.
and the buyer has to
Yay.
wire funds to closing.
Right. Nope, that's a really important part. The other thing too, you mentioned processor and underwriter. And so during the process of a loan, those are the two people that jump. I mean, your role is very important as the mortgage person there. But the processor and the underwriter, they do take over. And what is the role of each one of those people? Some people have trouble like, why is this lady calling me? Why is that guy calling me?
That's a good question. So what does the processor do? How do they move the process forward, I guess? Well, process. They're in that part of the process where they are taking all of the documents, structuring them, putting them together, building what I call a package to send over to underwriting. Everyone has a lane during the mortgage process. You've got the loan officer, right? You may have a loan assistant. You've got a processor who, once the buyer goes to contract, becomes the quarterback, to use a sports analogy.
Okay, good.
And the underwriter is the main contact person at the lender. The processor and the underwriter are working together to get the loan approved. And they do really work hard to get that done. So even though there might be documents and other stuff that they want, that's kind of their job, right? Their job is to get everything ready so that we can close. So that's the processor. The underwriter deals from the lender standpoint, and then I'm still in the middle communicating with everyone as we go along.
Gotcha. And you also use the line quarterbacking. So I always say, the real estate agent is the quarterback of the entire process.
100%.
So there's a lot of things involved in it, from not only the lender, from the inspections to the appraisal, the processors, the underwriters, to the loan, to the closing, the title agents. So there's a lot involved with everything.
I was thinking, what a good question would be, because we're trying to educate clients and borrowers and let them know what are the biggest mortgage mistakes people make? I get this question.
Great question.
So I always say, if you're going to buy a car during the mortgage process, make sure you want to sleep in it, because a lot of things you don't want to do is increase your debt through the process. And so a good mortgage professional will let you know that. But sometimes people don't listen. So buy your furniture after closing, right? So that's the first step. 2, not getting pre-approved early on in the process. Because sometimes someone goes out, sees a house, they get excited, and we just work fast, which is fine. But ideally, the more time, the better.
And that's a great lead into something else. You triggered what we should be telling people about. Don't go buy a car, and don't go and get furniture before closing. I had one time a lady, she went out and she bought, same as cash, a lawnmower, and she said, I didn't get credit, same as cash, I'm going to pay it over the time frame. That showed up on her credit. So that's one thing. What other items should people not, while we're in the process, that could blow the deal at the end, besides quitting your job? What were some couple of the other things?
Quitting a job is not good. So changing jobs, that happens. So a lot of times people will keep it a secret, maybe, that they've got a job change coming, where it's not an issue, usually in most cases. What it is if we don't know about it, at the very end, the lender's going to do what they call QC, quality control. They're going to verify employment, right? They're going to relook at credit. They're going to make sure no other debts came up. So if you're communicating through that process, like I had a client call me the other day and say, we want to buy some of this stuff before closing, their ratios were fine, their credit was fine. So in some cases, if you're communicating, you can do that stuff. If you're going to transfer jobs, I had a lady that she was working for Seminole County Public Schools as a teacher. She was transferring to another school, no problem. So I would say communication and making sure that we know everything, because look, these underwriters, they're good. They're doing they're checking everything. You own a piece of real estate in Michigan that you didn't let us know about, they're going to find. You own a corporation that you didn't let us know about, they're going to find it. So we take a client through almost 50 different questions so that we can find out all that information. But the more you share, the better, because if I know, I'm going to be able to help you work around that particular issue.
Yeah, there is no hiding anything. As somebody once told me one time, you guys are like undressing somebody financially.
That's a good one.
And you'll turn over every stone, including if you have a lease somewhere else, it could be an issue. So I really appreciate you coming on and answering some additional questions with us. And again, tell everybody how they could get a hold of you.
It's Rayce Robinson, Mid-Florida Mortgage Professionals. My contact information is below. Call me personally. Check me out online. More importantly, thanks, Linda, for letting me do this with you. I really, really appreciate it.
I just wanted to thank you again for joining us and being a really great business partner in the real estate industry with me. And I look forward to many, many years of working with you. So everybody, this is Rayce Robinson with Mid-Florida Mortgage, your favorite real estate, your
favorite Florida mortgage broker.
Favorite Florida mortgage broker. And I'm Linda Schulte, your favorite Florida broker for real estate. Linda Schulte with Schulte Realty here in the Central Florida area. And one thing I just want to make sure you all know is that I do cover Florida like the sunshine. So we can help you anywhere in Florida or anywhere around the United States. And thank you again for joining us. It's been awesome.
Thank you, Linda. I really, really appreciate you letting me.
All right, cool.